right. Well, welcome to another episode of Get Your Head in the Game podcast, where we talk all things mental health, mindset, and sports related as it pertains to the game of life. I am Dr. Jenna Ross, and I am a sport and performance consultant specializing in clinical mental health. And today I'm excited to have our guest, Ricky Sapp. He is a former NFL player and played at Clemson and is now a coach at Clemson and has quite a bit of background on motivating young athletes. And he also has a foundation, the Ricky Sapp Foundation, in which he pours back into his community and helps young athletes. So Ricky, thank you for being here, and I'm excited to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm definitely excited about it.
Yes. So, there's a lot we can talk about. I really want today to open up the conversation, not only about your mental health journey, but about motivation and what you do to motivate not only yourself, but younger athletes. You know, you're a coach at a college university and you've walked in their shoes, you've been there before. So you can relate to what they're going through and their experiences. So I really kind of want to focus in on that and how you motivate them and keep them going. I didn't mention it in the intro, but you are also known as the dancing weight room coach.
Oh, yeah.
So we can talk a little bit about that. But tell me first how you got started in football.
Man, well, I got started in football when I was about 9 years old. Riding by a gate, I saw a bunch of guys practicing football. I asked my mom, could I play? She said, yeah, go ask them. So I went and asked, and I started playing football. And it all started I got motivated from my uncle and my cousin. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Gotcha. Okay. So from the time you were 9, you played up until, what was it, 2015?
Yeah, it's a long time playing football.
A very long time. Yeah. So you spent 5 years in the NFL, and prior to that, you did you had your college career at Clemson.
Yep.
And so you went to high school in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, Bamberg, South Carolina. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell me then how that was moving up in football in high school and then to college. Like, what was that like?
Man, it was challenging. Mm-hmm. Coming from high school and going to a big college, and making that transition to bigger classrooms, and just the whole new schedule of playing college football was rough. I jumped right in and say this: my freshman year, I almost came back home. So that gives you that. Man, it was rough, man. It was.
Yeah. What made you want to come back home? What was it like?
Just the whole schedule, of, all right, you will have early morning workouts, class, study hall, and then, all right, then it's football for the rest of the day.
Wow.
And, for me, it wasn't even, it was the off season. Once the off season, my first off season in college came, I was like, holy crap, it was just so much, but, I got adjusted and everything worked out.
Yeah. Do you think, you weren't mentally prepared for that going into being a high school athlete to suddenly now you're in college and you're on your own?
Oh, without a doubt. I don't think I definitely was mentally ready for everything that it entails, with the, everything I had to do to my body, but also I wasn't prepared mentally for what I had to go through, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who during that time, did you have anybody that was kind of supporting you, encouraging you, keeping you there? Like, you didn't come home, obviously, because you played through, you had that first year, you stuck with it. So what was it that made you stick with it?
Oh, I had a bus load of people that was, trying to keep me there, but I was hiding from them. But, I had a really good position coach who recruited me to Clemson. and he was just amazing. And then of course my friends from back home, when they kind of caught wind of it, they was very supportive. Even my friends, I think my coach reached out to some of my friends' moms, that he knew I was close to. So, I had a lot of people in my corner that was, trying to encourage me. So, eventually what it was for me was I just, I was like, all right, man, this is football, toughen up. So, and then I had guys that was on the team that, was there for me as well. So that's kind of how, I made that transition to, all right, we ain't going nowhere. We gotta work through it. So.
Yes. So making that decision to stick with it and work through it. So now, I mean, transitioning from Clemson, playing in college, some very impressive statistics. You now get drafted in 2010 by the Eagles. What was that process like?
It was an incredible process. It really was. To see my mom and my godmom and my family, to see them so happy, and of course my mom cried her eyes out. But it was a childhood dream, and I'll forever be thankful for the Eagles for giving me that opportunity. So it was definitely fun to receive that phone call when they finally did call. It was definitely awesome to see that phone call, and as I'm talking to you, I still can see my little BlackBerry torch, and I see the 215 number come across my phone. It was definitely an incredible feeling. Yeah,
that moment. How long had you been waiting for that phone call?
Man, I waited 2 days. I was projected to get the phone call the first day, but it was worth the wait. When they called, it was worth the wait, and definitely was thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm sure was a special moment for you and your family, your mom, and everyone around you. Sure. So then you start playing. As you progressed in your career in the NFL, what transpired, and how did you? I saw that you went from the Eagles, then to Jets and Texans, and a few different teams. What was that part of your career like?
I like to call that part of my life being humbled. Because for me, the beginning of my career was unfamiliar space. I went from being the guy to being, all right, you're gonna be the second, third guy. So that was rough for me, man. It was really rough. It really was. And I battled injuries, man, a lot within those first 3 years in the NFL. I had about a lot of injuries. So it was definitely tough for me. I think midway through my third year was when I was finally starting to be healthy and finally figure out this whole NFL thing. So I finally started to figure it out, and finally started playing some ball and feeling good.
Yeah. So let's talk about those injuries. What did that do for you mentally as an athlete?
Well, I never got hurt a day in my life until my junior year at Clemson, where I tore my ACL. And you talk about your first injury being so dynamic, like an ACL. That threw me in depression as well. That really threw me in depression. I didn't move for probably about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, man, what in the world is this? I had, and you know what? To go back, I didn't really know that I had an opportunity to leave college early until my coaches really said something my junior year. I was like, huh? And then I was like, all right, well, shoot, let me go play so I can get out of here early. So I tear my ACL towards the end of my junior year, and then the chance to leave school early is out the door. And then with the ACL being so dynamic, it was rough, man. But it wasn't even the rehab or the surgery. It was just mentally, I was like, man, I can't believe I'm hurt. Now I got to work and do all
Mm-hmm.
this. So, you know, that was kind of some of the things that kind of I had a tough time with mentally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What, for your identity, um, and just talking to athletes today, so much of you is tied up in that sport, and having played since you were 9, and that's what you knew, an injury is now detrimental to that identity. So, how did you work through it, and how did you overcome it?
How long you want to talk? Because I can talk.
Let's hear it. Yeah. Yeah. Share what you want to share.
How did I work through it? I kept fighting. I will say that I kept fighting. But when I first started getting hurt in college, okay, it took me a while to get over that mentally, but I got over it. When I got in the NFL, I got drafted by the Eagles, and still wasn't 100% healthy, and going through that unfamiliar space of, all right, you're not the starter. Maybe you're not even the second guy, you're the third guy. Going through that, man, whew, that was rough.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and, people that never played sports or never been in that space, they don't know. Going from being the guy, you're the guy, to you're not that guy anymore. All
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden you can't run and jump and skip like you used to. So, man, and I'm gonna share this vulnerable moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, when I'm in with the Eagles, the only thing I wanted to do was hide
Mm.
and never come out again. I was like, man, this is
Hmm.
very unfamiliar space for me. So
Do you feel like you isolated yourself?
oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt, embarrassed, and just really not knowing who I was in that moment. Like, man, like, hold it, wait a minute, now who are we? Because we were this before, so now who the heck are we now? So it was tough.
Yeah.
So I definitely isolated myself, and definitely just had to, man, I had to figure out, where where do I go from here? If
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Yeah.
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 Yeah, definitely. So, as you're in that place, did you how did you pick yourself up to finally eventually move past that? Like, we talk about motivation, and
Mhm.
and mental health, yes, is deeper than just your motivation. But I think when we're so motivated by, like you talked about, being that number one guy,
Uh,
that you just move into the next level expecting the same thing, and it's not that way. And so you have to really look at your motivation for playing the sport.
mhm.
And what was it that motivated you to keep playing? Was it that you were that number one guy and people looked to you, or was it your love for the game? So looking at that and the impact on your mental health, when our motivation is tied to
Uh,
being that person, being that image of who you are as an athlete, and then we lose that part of ourselves, it's like it's gonna affect us mentally. So what was it that, I guess, well, first, how long were you in that space? Like, how long did that last?
Um, I think that lasts, and a lot of it carried over from college, but I think that definitely lasts for a couple months. It definitely
Mm,
was a couple months for me. The number one thing that I think about that, well, one of the important things that was the driving force and driving me out of that was competition. As an athlete, we want to compete. So I think one of the things in me was like, all right, this is an opportunity for me to compete, and to compete against myself, to show
mm-hmm,
myself that, man, look, we can battle and show these doggone people, that
mm-hmm,
we can play. But one of the turning points for me was one of my best friends that I played with at Clemson. Um, I went through something in Philly where, um, I was hiding, isolating myself, and one of my friends I played with at Clemson, reached out to his mom and told his mom to pray for me. And
Mm,
she called me. No, she didn't call. She texted me. And this is
mhm,
what she said. She said, I don't know what's going on. And I think she kind of said, I don't really care. But all
mhm,
I know is that my son said, pray for you. So we go pray and we go fast. And
mm,
I was like, what the heck? I never fasted a day in my life. And she was like, we go fast. And then
mhm.
so eventually she called me and I started fasting and praying.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was kind of the driving force that got me out of that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was that a part of your life before? Like, were you ever, did you have faith? Like, was that a part of you, or was that moment was kind of what turned it around?
Oh, I always was a believer. I always knew
Hmm.
God, but I never fasted in my life. So when she introduced me to that just like really opened up my relationship
Hmm.
with God, and that's when I really developed a relationship with Him. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Wow.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so important. I think a lot of people, whether
mhm,
you have faith or don't have faith, like to have
yeah,
that prayer as a part of your life and
yeah,
that communication with God. Um,
yeah, of
but that's not every athlete. Every athlete doesn't have that. Um,
course.
but it can make a huge difference, right? Like it's a game
I think
changer
so.
when you do have it.
I think so. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so prayer, fasting, people around you to
Yeah.
surround you and to bring you back to who
Uh-huh.
you were, to yourself.
Uh-huh.
Super important for overcoming that. Did you ever reach out and get, counseling or talk to like any professional in that moment, or was it just the people around you?
There's just people around me, and
Yeah.
even going back to college, I talked to a therapist in college, and but I wasn't being honest with him. I was
Mm-hmm.
bits and pieces of what I wanted him to know. But when I got into the league, I was talking to a therapist with the Eagles, and then um, before I signed with the New York Jets, Rex Ryan, this is what he said. He said, I won't sign you unless you talk to our therapist. And then depending on the conversation you have with her, then we'll proceed. So,
Mm, okay.
yeah. So, but no, I never reached out on my own to talk to a therapist. Just the
Okay.
people around me and people
Okay.
supporting me. Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, if anybody is tuning in right now, this is Get Your Head in the Game podcast, and we are talking with Ricky Sapp on all things mental health, mindset, and sports related. So coming back to that, what you just said, you mentioned the first therapist that you weren't completely honest with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So what do you think prevented you? What kept you from being honest?
I think just prideful and like, man, I don't.
Mhm.
So, all right, now I'm gonna talk along now, but just I never knew that I had anxiety or was going through depression off and on. I didn't know it. So for me, all my life, before I got to college, I just brushed a lot of things off. I was like, whatever.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
I brushed my stuff off. I get to college, and then all of a sudden, I start feeling different. I start thinking different. I'm like, I start throwing up before games, and my coaches they thought it was like, all right, just hype and excited. What it was I was having anxiety,
Mhm.
and I even say this in college. I started having just thoughts of like harming myself,
Mhm.
and I'm like, wait a minute, what in the heck is going on? I'm at Clemson University, this amazing big program playing football. Why am I having these thoughts?
Mm.
So I think
Mhm.
um, I don't know how, but so they started having me see a therapist.
Okay. So did you come out and tell somebody that you were having those thoughts, or how did they find out?
I think the way they found out was because um, I struggled with sleeping really bad.
Mm.
They kind of saw that, and it was like, all right, now we gotta get you to talk to somebody or something. So I started talking to him, and That's how I got into talking to the therapist here.
And so did you share with that therapist about wanting to harm yourself?
The only thing I share with my guy, and the crazy thing about it is he's still here, and we talk about it to this day and laugh about it. But the only thing I really shared with him was just how my moods would change in and out, and I told him that I felt sad for no reason, out of the blue. So other than that, I didn't share.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming to the recognition that you were experiencing anxiety, you were having all these things happen to you, but not really knowing that that's what it was. When was it that you realized that's what it was?
So I'm with the New York Jets and talking to that therapist. When Rex Ryan told me that it was going to, depending on what she told him after that, they was going to sign me, I was like, holy crap. I was like, all right, I got to be honest. I got to be honest. And so I went in and spoke with her in the facilities. I'll just be honest with you. When I started talking to her and started like opening up and being honest, it just felt great. And I was like, all right, holy crap, let me keep going. So that's kind of,
wow.
It was at that first meeting with her where we both figured out like, okay, I've been holding so much stuff in for so long and ignoring so much stuff and not addressing a lot of stuff. That's kind of what we figured out that, all right, yeah,
Yeah, because there's so much pressure, right? So much pressure as an athlete to keep that performance up, that addressing what you're feeling and where you're at mentally means sometimes it could mean the loss of your career or slowing down. Like that's a lot of pressure to put on you. So then they signed you to the Jets anyway.
They did.
Whatever you said wasn't like too shocking.
Yeah.
So you played for the Jets, and then as you moved through that, like how often did you see the therapist? How often did you go in and talk to somebody?
So I had to see the team therapist every week. I had to see her every week, and she was amazing. She really was. But I had to see her every week, and then I had to see an outside therapist. I think once a month. I had to check with him once a month. He was the one that prescribed me medicine and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep. So it's kind of a regular practice then for you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So you played for the Jets, and then moving on in your career, when was it that you decided to basically leave the NFL?
Well, my last game was with the Houston Texans against the Dallas Cowboys, which is my favorite team. I think God got a sense of humor, but I got hurt against the Cowboys, and so I've never told my parents, not even my close friends know this. I think only one or two people know this. So I get hurt with Houston and pull hamstring, right? So I love Houston so much. I loved it. The locker room was amazing. The city was amazing. I'm a country boy, so I've never really cared for cities, but I love it so much. So I pulled my hammy and they put me on injury reserve, and the Cowboys call, the Tennessee Titans call. But I told my agent, I was like, no, man, I'm not ready. So the Cowboys call again. And he's like, look, they just want you to come and play. Like they're about to play against the Eagles, I think, or something like that. And I could have probably played, but my hammy was still, hamstring is tricky. So second time they called. And then they called the third time. And I'm like, all right, now, okay, I'll go. So I go and work out for them, but they didn't sign me. So I had opportunities, but really I wanted to stay in Houston. I was like, man, I don't want to leave Houston. So, those choices, I probably could have been still playing right now to this day.
Wow, yeah.
But I didn't want to leave Houston, man. I didn't want to leave Houston. But
Mm.
I wanted to play. So, but during this time, I was in Myrtle Beach, expecting that I was going to play again. Um, but during that time, I was definitely depressed and going through
Mm.
some tough times. But once I figured out my purpose, that's when I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so talk to me then a little bit about that phase. Did you recognize it sooner, what you were experiencing that time?
As far as depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I with the Jets is where I figured it out. I figured it out with the Jets. Like, all right, I've struggled with depression, anxiety. I still have issues with it. This is what it is. This is the issues that I haven't addressed. I need to address. So I figured out what it was. So of course, when it happened, when I was transitioning from the NFL, I knew what it was. And I was in that for about almost 2 years. It was rough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, about two
Wow.
years. But during that time, I was still, working out, but I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't sleeping. But I
Mm-hmm.
was working out and still preparing for an opportunity, which I still had. I had a couple opportunities come, but during that time, I wasn't sleeping. I was up all night, and then I would go work out around 10 o'clock, get back home. Wasn't answering the phone for people. Just
Mm-hmm.
financial advisor, my agent. Those the only people I answered the phone for. And so I was doing that, and then I ended up going to this gym, working out with one of my cousins that I was playing. And this guy saw us, and he was like, "Holy crap! I would love for you guys to come speak to my high school that I coach at." And we like, "All right, shoot, all right, let's do it." So we're going to do that. He reaches out back to me and be like, "Hey, you should come be a volunteer coach for our team. While you wait for the NFL." I was like, "No, I'm not. Oh crap!" So, but anyway, he hit me up again. He's like, "Man, we really think you should come be a volunteer coach." So anyway, I tell one of my good friends, and they was like, "Man, you should go do it. Just to get your mind off of it." So I go do it. Long story short, at that school, I fall in love with kids, and that's when I figured out my purpose. One night, I figured out my purpose, and I was like, "Holy crap, this feels amazing."
Wow.
So short, yeah.
That's crazy. So you spent nearly 2 years in that kind of depressive state of
um,
navigating it, isolating yourself and trying to figure out what life was, and then moving into now I've found my purpose. What was,
yeah.
yeah, what was that like once you were kind of like, okay, I can come out of this? Was it like a moment, or was it just generally like a gradual process for you?
It was a gradually process, but while I was at this school, the kids had no idea. Nobody had no idea
Mm-hmm.
that, and it was some days I didn't show up
Mm-hmm.
because I literally could not leave my room. I live in a
Mm-hmm.
house, but I could not listen to me. I mean, I could not open my door in my room and leave my room. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, man, I can't go today. I can't. I just can't.
Wow.
So, but on those days, the kids, how kids are on social media, they reach out to me on social media, and it was like, "Yo, you're not here today. Like, what's up?" Like the energy wasn't the same. So I'm like, "All right, god dang, all right." So, but as I'm working with these kids, and I'll tell you what I told one of my closest friends, I was like, "Man, when I'm around these kids, I feel something.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I know what it is. If I feel love. I feel passionate. I feel just so excited to see them, perform and work with them. But I was like, I hate the feeling. I don't want to feel this.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to feel this for these
What?
for these kids.
Yeah. Why? What was it that was scary about it, I guess?
I want to play football. I didn't want.
Okay.
I did not. I didn't know that I was supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be working with kids. I didn't know. So while I was around these kids, and I promise you, it just felt right. It was like, man, I feel so much love when I'm around these kids. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? So that was happening to me. And I was like, I don't want to feel this for them. I don't want to feel it.
You wanted to go back. You wanted to go back to football, playing
Yeah, I was
football.
like, I don't want to feel this. So eventually the football season ends. And then, of course, they wheel me in to do JV basketball with one of the football coaches. So now I'm coaching JV basketball at this frapping school. And, a lot of the football guys are playing basketball. So one night after a basketball game, me and the head coach, we talking to the kids. There's 2 kids in front of me. And we talking to these kids. And we getting on them hard. I'm getting on them. And the kid look at me and say, man, Coach Sapp, why you so hard on us, man? Like, why you so? And I said, man, I love you, man. I said, I love you.
Wow.
And that was the moment that, if I had to guess, that was the moment that God said, aha. This is what I got. This is what I have.
He showed it to you, huh?
Yeah. So I remember that moment. I went home that moment, and it just felt so good. It was just an amazing feeling. It felt so good. I was talking to my close friend that knew what was going on. I was like, man, this feels so good. I was like, this is it. I'm supposed to be working with kids. And so those kids, I think they know now. Eventually I told them years later, but they thought it was so amazing to have an NFL guy working with them and, helping them, but they didn't even know I was sent there for them to help me.
Wow. So talk about, full circle. Do you feel like God brought you through all that in your own life to be able to help these younger kids with where they are?
Oh, without a doubt. 100%. Without a doubt.
Yeah. So all of that, the anxiety, the depression, are you able to recognize it in, the athletes that you do train and work with? And and then when you see it, are you, because I think there's this stigma, right? Like the same thing you experienced, that not wanting to talk about it, the easiest thing to do was to isolate. So how do you bring up a conversation about that with athletes?
Well, the fact that, God gave me the gift, to be able to work with kids, and, these college kids are just big kids. But the fact that I have that gift, I know how to communicate with them on their level. I'll give you an example. My son, who is real quiet, he's total opposite of me. He's quiet, right? So when we would come home, he watched these very, 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 very horrible, terrible animated shows that I just didn't understand. And I hated them, but I knew he loved them. So I would go sit in his room and just sit there and just watch it. And within a minute, he would start talking. I would be in school because I was a substitute teacher. I would be in school, and it would be kids that teachers would say, oh, that's a tough one. They're not going to talk. What I would do is I would see them and I would give them attention. And I would say, hey, what do you like to do? Oh, I like to draw. And I would be like, oh, draw me. And as they're drawing me, I'm watching them. And they start talking. So the way I get them to talk is, I speak to them on their level. I don't go up and just say, hey, man, what's going on, man? I feel something going on. What I do is I love them up, but I see them and I give them attention. And I develop relationships with them, so I know what they lack. So what I would do is like, hey, man. So if I know somebody that loves, basketball, I'm like, hey, man, I saw James Harden last night, man. Or I'll be like, hey, man, let's get a one-on-one basketball. Let me go beat you real quick. Doing something that they love. I know they go talk. They go start talking.
Yeah.
So that's how I get them to talk about it.
Yeah. So it's not like you come right up and be like, hey, are you having depression today? You don't, that's not what you do. It's more of forming a relationship and communication. And I think what you said, just about with your son being there, just being there and being that person that is there. And so, moving to where you are now as a coach, And let's talk for a minute on, I want to move into the dancing because we haven't yet talked about that. How do you motivate the athletes that you're with now? I mean, there's a lot that they're going through because you've been there, you've walked through it, you've walked in their shoes. And how do you help keep them motivated?
Well, the one thing I'll say is that kids have a gift, and we all had it at one time. Kids have a gift of knowing if you are real or not. They know if you for them or you just there to collect a check. They know if you are willing to, be there for them. They just know. Mm-hmm. It's something that they have. So I'll tell you this. When I first started substituting, I tried to come off as this big, black, strong guy. I tried to come off as mean, right? Mm-hmm. Well, one day, some of the kids walked up to me, and it was little kids, and I was, trying to be mean. It was like, Mr. Sapp, we know you're not really that mean. We know you really love us. So could you stop trying to act tough? So I was like, what? I was like, really? So anyway, so that's kind of how
they figured you out.
They figured me out. But to answer your question, I am an energy guy. I am with one thing, and I didn't figure this out until after NFL, that I got a lot of energy. So I keep these guys motivated by giving them energy. And it's some days they don't even want it, but I still give it to them. And they come up to me later and be like, man, I appreciate your energy, man. I appreciate it. So one of the ways I motivate them is I just give them energy. I hype them up. I love on them. And that's one of the main ways that I motivate them. But the one thing that they see me do every day when they come in that weight room is I'm going to be dancing and jumping and screaming. Mm-hmm. And that's how I motivate them.
Yeah. So the energy. Okay. So given that, they're in college, they're probably tired, they're probably worn out, stressed out. Mm-hmm. Like, how does that energy take somebody from being totally like, I'm run down, I'm stressed out, like overwhelmed, overworked, but I'm here? Like, how have you seen that energy transform them?
Man, because I scream and shout and dance and, even in training camp, like they're tired. They don't want to talk to nobody, but I would sing and dance and scream and shout at them, and just to get them going, like, hey, look, we here. We might as well have fun. Let's go. We might as well have fun. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Here, take this energy. Let's go. So I've seen it. I've seen the guys come in and dragging, and as soon as I see them, I'm dancing and singing and bumping up on them, and like I said, a lot of them don't want it. A lot of them get mad, but I'll be like, hey, I ain't going nowhere. Let's go. Mm-hmm. Let's go. So I've seen it. I've seen them get motivated. I've seen them smile. I've seen them say, dude, you are crazy. Something is wrong with you. So I've seen it help and motivate them. And the biggest thing that I've seen that I do for athletes and for people in general is that I just give them confidence. Mm-hmm. I help them build confidence. I help them feel good. And I mean, just in general, when you see someone that is willing to give you energy, attention, and then love, mm-hmm. you have no choice, but to be motivated.
Yeah, that's probably for you, working with at the college, but also the younger athletes with your foundation. How do you now? Tell me, what age ranges are they? They're young, right?
Yeah. I pretty much work from kids from all the way from first grade all the way to 18.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So being, some of these kids, do they have, you never know, I guess. You never know the background that a kid is coming from. And so you being that positive person for them, let's talk for a minute. Okay, real quick before we go into your foundation. This is Get Your Head in the Game podcast. I'm Dr. Jenna Ross, and we're talking with Ricky Sapp, former NFL player and Clemson coach, that you have a foundation that you started. And how did it start, and what is it now? I guess talk to me about that.
It started in 2010 when I got drafted. I just told my guy, I said, look, man, I want a foundation. I want to help and give. You know, I was always that friend in the group that would, here you go, this is all I got left, but here you go, have it. I was one of those guys that would just give. So it made sense for me to start a foundation. But what I didn't know at the time was my purpose was to work with kids. So I had this foundation. Fast forward 5 years later is when I figured out that, holy crap, you know, kids. So, but the foundation started, and it's the Ricky Sapp Foundation, and the motto is dream big, live big. And what I do is I have several events throughout the year for kids. Starting at the beginning of the year, we have a celebrity basketball event where that money goes to my high school, and half of it goes to the Part 1 of football. We have a panel before the game where we have several people talk, the kids ask questions, then we have video games, we walk around, eat, and talk to them as well. Then we play the basketball game, a bunch of NFL guys play each other. I coach one of the teams. Then we do the football camp. It's the football cheerleading camp. It's free. I have an NFL cheerleader that comes. She does the cheerleading part. We give out gifts. We take them through some drills. We feed them, all that good stuff. And then I do a back to school event where I give out book bags full of school supplies. And then we do Thanksgiving event. We give out turkeys. Then Christmas, I dress up as the elf and I give out gifts to the kids. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And who knew, you know, like just you talking about how that you started it, but didn't necessarily know the purpose for it at the time that you started it. That's incredible. Okay, so now what would you say let's wrap things up, what would you say to younger athletes, how to stay like motivated? What would your advice be?
My advice would be is understand what it is that you want to do. You know, if you want to be in that field where you're playing sports, you have to take it one day at a time and remind yourself every day, you know, what I want to accomplish, what I want to do, and let that be the driving force one day at a time. So that would be my main advice for young athletes.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. Okay. Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate you being here and sharing your story and your journey with mental health. Where could people find you? Social media?
Everywhere.
Yeah,
I'm everywhere. I'm on Instagram, Sapp Foundation. I'm on Twitter, Sapp91. Okay. I'm on YouTube. I got my own YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And I'm on Facebook, of course, Ricky Sapp. And I'm heavy on social media. I dance every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So also on TikTok now. So on
TikTok. And what's the name on TikTok so they can find
the dancing weight room coach.
Okay. Yep. Okay. And what's your YouTube channel? What's the name of that?
Just Ricky Sapp.
Ricky Sapp. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, that's awesome. I love what you're doing and contributing and.
Oh, my podcast too. Talk to Me Tuesday. I forgot about that.
Okay, podcast too. That's awesome. So you are in this whole everywhere, basically, like you just said. But to be able to contribute and give back, I love that. I love what you're doing. I love that you took your own experiences and your own pain, really, and turned it into something purposeful and meaningful. So love to see it. And thank you again for being here.
You are truly welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.